My name is Jane Borowski, host of Invisible Tears. This podcast will be about my story in my words, talking about my own personal experiences in self-healing. I do not claim to be a therapist, counselor, or a licensed psychologist.
Hello, my name is Amanda Bedard, and I'm the co-host, producer, and editor of Invisible Tears. I'm a Reiki master, certified professional life coach, spiritual coach, wellness coach, and a counseling practitioner. Some of the content you will hear in this podcast may be disturbing to some. Viewer discretion is advised, but it is our hope by putting this information out there that we may help others to heal. We will always be a platform for truth and healing. This is Invisible Tears.
Welcome to Invisible Tears. I'm Jane, co-host of Invisible Tears podcast, and I'm here with my co-host Amanda and Drew. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey Jane, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Oh, that was attractive.
We now have to worry about that since we have the visual component now, huh?
I know. But I'm so excited about the visual component. I think it's awesome. And I think this will be a good way to connect more with our audience so they can see us and see our personalities. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So this is our last episode of season 1. I can't believe season 1 is over already. And it's been pretty enlightening. Not only has season 1 helped me to continue with my healing process, it has also given me a platform to share my story and share my story in my words, in my way. And that's been amazing. The feedback we've gotten has been absolutely amazing. To hear people or to have people email me and say, I've never been so heard. That's just huge. And that's what I want to do is I want to, in hopes of sharing my story and talk about my trauma and PTSD, my hope was to help others. And I think I have, if I had helped that one person, that is what I wanted to do. And I accomplished that. So that is great. We had some great guests on. Michelle Renee, she was so inspirational.
Oh, yeah.
So inspiring. She went through a horrible trauma, and her and her daughter, and just the way that she looks at life today is just so inspirational. And then we had John Philpin, my good friend. He was the criminal profiler of the Connecticut River Valley cases. His interview was great. I love talking to that man. He's so intriguing. And I think the season was pretty good. How about you, Amanda?
I think it absolutely was too. I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback, especially like right after we launched Jane, that I heard from people that were listening was everybody could really tell how authentic, unscripted, and raw and real you were being. I mean, for, the first 2 episodes of Invisible Tears, I mean, right off the bat, it is just first 2 episodes is you and you telling the story of your life before, during, and after your attack in your own words, which is something that you've never done before. And it really impacted people. And people could tell it, and I can vouch for it too, that there was no script. That was just you and I sitting down having a conversation, and you really, divulging some details that not a single person had ever heard before. Um, and the authenticity and the transparency that you've had as we've gone through the rest of the episodes this season, I think is really resonating with people. As we've gone through and done episodes about your healing process and about the financial impact that it had on you, and the PTSD along with your gambling. And as people have followed you through your healing process, you have been so transparent and, again, so authentic that I think it's really resonating with people, because it takes a really strong person to open up in the way that you have. Um, and it's coming from a place of, I want to help people. And I think that's amazing.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I just wanted to, one of the things that I really wanted to do was um, give other survivors a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe sharing my story, there are other survivors out there that can relate. Um,
Right.
Unless you've gone through something traumatic in your life or you developed PTSD, you really don't know um, what survivors go through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, your life, you don't just like myself, I was attacked, stabbed 27 times. I physically healed, but that's not where it ended there. The mental
Right.
aspect of it, the, like you said, financial aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
the other people's reactions
Mm-hmm.
uh, to my attack, like the hate letters. I
Mm-hmm.
almost called them love letters. Uh, the hate letters, people judging,
Mm-hmm.
my what I did and what I should have done and didn't do. And these are things that other survivors do go through.
Right.
And um, so it's not like I just uh, sometimes people have the perception of okay, this happened to you, get over it and move on. As much as you want to, you can't. And you know throughout the years it hadn't allowed me to. But with healing, it's given me a whole new perspective of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely improved my life a lot.
Absolutely. Drew, what's your feedback about the season?
I think it's been a great season. It was great to hear Jane with her honesty. But one episode in particular that really hit home with me and my family was the addiction PTSD episode that we did, where Jane talked about her addiction, everything that she did to hide that addiction from her friends and family, and what it led to. My grandfather committed suicide a couple of years ago, and there was no rhyme or reason as to why did he take his own life. And my grandmother had no answers. The rest of the family, no answers. Just trying to think of why would he do that. And after listening to the addiction PTSD episode, it got my family really thinking um, about why would he take his life. And after really sitting with it, thinking about it, and going back over, the stuff that he had done, they really feel like addiction was what led to his suicide. So after hearing that episode, hearing Jane, you talk about it, it really has helped bring my grandmother some closure and taken a lot of guilt away from her feeling like she was the cause of it. The rest of the family really does feel like it was addiction that possibly did lead to his suicide. So it answered a lot of questions, brought some closure. And ever since, my grandmother has listened to the episode, she's been able to wake up each morning feeling less guilty that it wasn't her fault that he had committed suicide. So that's something that's been beneficial to me, my parents, my grandparents, my aunt and uncles. So it's been very beneficial.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've known your family, most of your life, for years. Your whole family, your grandmother, your grandfather, your aunts, your aunt, uncle, and your parents. And I'm so glad that when you told me that, I was I'm so glad I was able to help with giving your family answers, some kind of answers, um, because gambling addiction is so invisible. Um, you can hide it so well, and if I was able to give your family some kind of comfort and some kind of answers, and you know, I'm grateful for that. I'm glad I was able to do that for your family.
Yeah, and Jane, you knowing them, it did answer a lot of questions, didn't it? Once we
Yeah.
actually started talking about it, um, it really didn't make sense. It was the only thing that we've thought about that actually did make sense as to why he would have committed suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, we did talk about it quite a bit, and a lot of the things that you had told me just really they really added up uh,
Yep.
to the addiction. Um, and it's too bad that I'm sad that he didn't feel like he could get help with it. You know, it's I've gone through and I've gone down that suicide path, yeah, attempted suicide path, and today I look back and I say to myself, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't do it." And problems are not forever. Um, whatever problems you have today, they may not exist tomorrow. And we've got the suicide hotline info on our pages, and I hope people see them because suicide is not the answer. And unfortunately, it's the families that you leave behind um, that suffer, and they suffer a great loss. And your grandmother, I know she misses your grandfather every day. I saw it in her. So, um, shall we move on to the next thing?
We've got some
Absolutely.
huge updates, don't we?
We do.
Such
We
exciting
do.
news. All right, I got my
Yeah.
tissues ready.
I forgot my tissues.
Oh no.
I um I did an episode um about the investigative part of my case, about missing or lost evidence.
Mhm.
And so I'm also doing a project with Dark Valley, which is connected to Crawl Space Media, Tim, Lance, and Jen. Jen will be narrating Dark Valley. That'll be coming out in the spring. And we were trying to find my case file. We were trying to find out which legal department had my case file. Because if my case was obviously it's a cold case, or so we thought. It's an old case and it's unsolved. I wanted to see where my case was and if there were eyes on my case file. So we did some research and
Mhm.
it was kind of frustrating at first. We found out that like the AG office in Concord didn't have my case file. Um, Major crime didn't have my case file. Of course, I was removed off of the website for a cold case, New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit,
Yep.
um, and I didn't know why. Um, so we did some more research. We checked Cheshire County; they didn't have my case file, um, and we checked Swansea, the town that my attack happened, and they didn't have my case file. So I was left with, okay, I am going to call the state police barracks in Keene, New Hampshire, which is the next town over from where my attack happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially the last place that would have had your file if your file had actually existed, correct? I mean, I'm
It,
sure I'm sure for the listeners listening, I mean, Jane's been going through that. Jane and Jen had been going through this sort of digging and calling and digging and really trying to search. I mean, all Jane was trying to do was find where the file was and um, keeping on coming up on dead ends um, and not really getting any sort of answers as to where. Nobody really knew where it was. I'm sure that Jane, that you thought that, oh my God, it's gone,
yes,
right?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. And yeah, I mean, my case is 34 years old. So it was like, maybe it is gone.
Right.
Maybe it just doesn't exist anymore. Maybe they closed it without contacting me, which was kind of frustrating to think about because, I would think that they would contact me.
Right.
So, yeah, we didn't hear anything for a while. And it had been years since I've really been contacted by anybody, except a couple of years ago, I was contacted by a detective in the cold case unit that wanted me to be re-fingerprinted
Yep.
because they did find some unidentified fingerprints on my car, which I was like more than willing to go in and, yep, set it up. I'll go in and be fingerprinted. And I was supposed to hear from him in 2 weeks, and it was over 2 years, and I hadn't heard from him. So all this was compiling up. Okay, I'm probably not gonna find my case file,
Mm-hmm.
and so I called a state police barracks in Troop C in Keene, and I talked to this wonderful man, Trooper Michael McLaughlin. And I mean, he answered the phone and I was like, "Hi, I'm Jane Borowski." And he was like, "I know exactly who you are." And I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay. He knows who I am."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, evidently the word had trickled down that I was looking for my case file because one of the first things he said is, "I have your case file."
Amazing.
Whew. I still get emotional about it.
I do too.
And I was like, "Oh my God." And he proceeded to tell me that it was all put into a database.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll never be lost
Yep.
unless the computers crash or anything. But
Right.
so it's all been put into this database. Well, what had happened was the the state police were moving to a new building.
Mm-hmm.
So they were moving evidence, files, all that stuff to the new building. And he come across my box of evidence.
It's not lost. That is huge.
So then I find out, oh my God, my evidence is still there.
Right.
And he said he noticed it and he was a bit intrigued and started looking into it. And he said, excuse me, he said I had a lot of trash in my car. I'm like, oh my God, they saved all that. And I said, yeah, I was 22. Yeah, I had a lot of trash in my car. But so he then proceeded to tell me that my case is a very active case right now. And I was like so emotional about it.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe he said that. I was like, wow. Um, it was it was bonus, bonus, bonus on top of bonus.
Right.
One, my case file is still there.
Mhm.
It's in a database.
Mhm.
My evidence is still there.
So
And I'm
gone.
talking to this wonderful man, and he's telling me that my case is a very active case. And I was just so elated. You know, I used to watch, and I still do watch 2020 or Dateline and watch all the interviews they do on these old cold cases. And most of them have these detectives that, these cases stick with them, and they are intrigued with them, and they want to find answers for the families uh, through these cases and through investigating these cases. And some of them are as old as mine. And I watch these shows and I watch the interviews, and I think to myself, I wish I had that detective or that state police officer that wanted to help find answers for me
Right.
and wanted to work my case,
Yep.
even though it's so old. And I found that person.
Hmm.
I found that person. I found that state police trooper that cares and wants to help.
Hmm.
And it was just so emotional talking to him. I got off the phone with him on me and Jessica just broke down crying. She
Mm.
was I had it on speakerphone so she could hear it and hear him talk. And we just broke down crying, and she was like, "Mom, you're not forgotten."
Yeah.
And that feeling of not being forgotten
Hmm.
is huge.
Yeah.
And it was a very emotional moment for us. And it gave me hope again.
Mm.
It gave me hope. And you know after my attack, a year goes by, the 1 year anniversary goes by, and I had hope that whoever did this to me would be arrested and identified. And then nothing. 5 years goes by, and you think, okay, I still have hope. Um, they're gonna find out who did this, and still nothing. And then 10 years, and then 20 years goes by, and you start losing hope. You you think to yourself, okay, who in the world is gonna solve a 20-year case? So I lost a little bit of hope. 30 years went by, and I gave up on hope. And I kind of accepted it. I
Mm.
accepted the fact that, okay, maybe my case won't be solved.
Mm.
Uh, but the day I talked to Michael McLaughlin, I had hope again.
Mhm.
I had a great deal of hope again. And it was great. It was it was so great.
I can only imagine going through that range of emotions and what you and Jessica, felt after you got off the phone with him. I mean, not only was he, not only did he, tell you, not only do I have your evidence, but I have your file, I have your case, and it's active. I mean, um, he's really interested in connecting with you as well, and in just what you just explained about how long it's been and how long has gone by without really any sort of traction happening with your case, I would have lost hope too. And let's be real, even if it still doesn't get solved, at least someone is working it. And that's amazing news to hear. And I just want to make sure that the listeners know too that we're releasing this information with the blessing of Officer McLaughlin. We wouldn't do that otherwise. So he is fully aware that we're actually, releasing this information. Obviously, that's all we can release. But yeah, we have his blessing to make sure and put this out there and put that public too.
And that some officers within Troop C actually do listen to this podcast, and they love the idea that we're actually doing this. And Jane, I remember when we started this project, I told you it's a long shot, but we're going to solve this son of a bitch. We're going to get this done. You knew it was a long shot, but this breakthrough is absolutely huge for, for you, for Jess, for all the other victims.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. It's enormous. And the timing, guys, the timing of all of this is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because the timing, it sounds like, was when we were starting this project, really sitting down and trying to blueprint, what we wanted to do. That's about the same time that this officer stumbled up across your box of evidence in your case file. Right. It seems like everything, and even, we're coming to the end of season 1, and then you get into contact with him. Mm-hmm. The timing is just lined up perfectly too.
Yeah, because he found the evidence 2 years ago.
Right.
So, and he is also working with a detective up in the cold case unit in Concord too. So I'll be meeting with them in a few weeks, and we're gonna have coffee.
Nice.
That's the way he explained it. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna have coffee. And I'm so thankful for that, because I'm gonna be able to, tell my story again to them and to fresh ears. And they're going to be able to ask me new questions. Mm-hmm. And, I haven't had a sit down with any law enforcement in years. A year after my attack, they stopped coming around. They stopped asking questions. And, even when I was in the cold case unit officially, and I was on the website, all these new eyes on my case, and I still hadn't heard from anybody. And for this state trooper to say, I want to sit down and have coffee with you, that meant the world to me. That was like, okay, he really does care. He is genuine.
Yeah.
And I just feel so thankful and grateful for this. It may not come up with anything. There may not be any answers still, but I still have hope. Mm-hmm. There's hope again.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a wonderful feeling. A wonderful feeling. Don't ever lose hope. Because it is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So what fantastic news to end season 1 with.
Right? Sure is.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest pieces is that the evidence isn't gone.
I know.
I mean, because when you think about it, with everything that they collected, from your car, from you and everything like that. I mean, when you tell the story about going up to Concord and being like, oh, I want to see my evidence, and then them just being like, nope, it's not here, it's gone, and not giving you any sort of other information. I mean, And they didn't
And
give you
this
any
is
information about where it was. It's like, okay, where is it? Where is it then? It
Right.
can't just like, grow legs and like walk off. And now it's like, so if anything does come to fruition, there is evidence.
yes. And the important thing about the evidence, even though it's 34 years old, they lifted fingerprints off my car that they can't identify. Like everybody I knew, myself, my husband, my mechanics, like everybody I knew went in right after my attack and were fingerprinted, and that's how they started eliminating fingerprints. And they do have a set of fingerprints that uh, they have not identified. So the good thing about that is, and the most important thing about that is, they are um, the last time they ran it through CODIS was 7 years ago, and they didn't get a hit.
Mhm.
So they're going to be running it through CODIS again, and we'll see if they get a hit. Um, but the other thing too was the scrapings underneath my fingernails. They still had that. And forensics, like I think they said about 15 years ago, they ran some forensics of the scrapings from underneath my fingernails, and it was unconclusive.
Mhm.
There may have been some DNA there. There may not have been. They really couldn't get really specific with it. 15 years later, now today, forensics has gone even further,
Mhm.
and they're going to be taking my scrapings from underneath my fingernails, and they're going to be running forensics on that.
Mhm.
So, even though it's old evidence, it's something that they can continue to use. They have the tools, and they continue to gain tools to, test all this evidence. And so that is pretty exciting. It's like, yeah, it's a very active case right now, and I'm super happy about that. When the years goes by, 34 years goes by, you just don't want to be forgotten,
Yeah.
because I can't forget what happened to me,
Right.
and I don't want others to forget what happened to me, because these are unsolved cases.
Mhm.
Even with the other victims that didn't survive, these are unsolved cases, and we cannot allow people to forget them. We really can't. There's information out there, um, and maybe people will start coming forward every time they hear this story. We do have people come forward, and you know that's how family members and the families and the victims and survivors. That's how we all get answers. And so, yeah, it's all so exciting. I'm still on cloud nine. I just can't believe it. Um, you know, I may have answers someday.
Right. Yeah.
It's answers that I've wanted for 34 years. I
Mhm.
may have answers someday. And I'm super excited about that.
Yes, you should be. It's amazing news.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So, with that, that is going to end our first season. It's
Absolutely.
what a better I can plan a better way to end our first season.
Mhm.
This way, uh, it's been pretty exciting.
And rest assured, we were not sitting on this information waiting for the season
No,
one finale to drop it. It literally
no,
came during the week that we were getting, it right before our first season one finale, which was the Michelle Renee interview. That's how we were going to end the season.
yeah,
And as we were getting ready for that one to be released, that's when these phone calls came in.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely great to hear. Just seeing the hope in Jane's eyes and her voice, you could tell for the first time in a long time somebody within law enforcement cared enough to open up the case file and to start looking into it. And as you've been saying through the entire season, your friggin' windshield is not lost.
How do you lose a
How do you
windshield?
lose a windshield, right? How do you lose a
Exactly.
windshield?
Yeah.
And other thing
Yes.
too is, how many times did all three of us drive by the building that is holding your case file and evidence and not
Yeah.
think anything of it too?
Little did
It's
we
Sitting
one of
know.
those,
right
like,
there.
who would have thought? Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
did we know. Yeah. Couldn't think we couldn't come up with a better way to end the season. The universe had to do it for us with this timing. And so, yeah, what amazing
Yeah.
information to share with everybody to conclude our first season of Invisible Tears. So we have a visual component now to Invisible Tears. We have figured this out, and bear with us as we keep on perfecting it. But so now you guys can watch us record our episodes on our YouTube channel. You can find us at Invisible Tears Podcast on YouTube. So this will be up there along with all the other episodes as I'm working through and uploading those from the first season. But yeah, as we kick off season 2, so we won't be gone too long. It'll only be a few weeks, so we're going to take off. When we kick off season 2, we're going to make sure and have that visual component for you guys. But also, maybe we should talk a little bit about what everybody can expect from
Oh,
us
exactly.
for season 2.
Great idea, Amanda. Great idea.
Yep. So for season 2, we do have a couple of cases that are within the New Hampshire region that we're looking into. Going to be doing some stories on them to try to shed some light on them, and also to get people coming forward that might have some information that will actually help solve, these cases, along with the continued mental health aspect of Jane and her healing process, especially with finding out this new information. And then as the information comes available that we can talk about, we will definitely be giving updates on the Connecticut River Valley serial cases. As Detective McLaughlin shares that information that can't be made public, there's a lot of stuff that is being kept behind the scenes right now. And I do believe that all listeners will completely understand the reasons why. But we will definitely be releasing that information when the time is right. But yep, season 2 will definitely be a couple more cases to try to shed some light on Jane's mental health and healing. And we want to talk with other people that are dealing with PTSD, with trauma, and to heal mentally too. And I think what we're going to do as a segue into from season 1 to season 2 is we would love to do a Q&A from anybody that had been listening. I do know that my sister Paige and my mom definitely have a list of questions that they have after listening to season 1. So they're going to be sending us those questions. And we'd love to hear from anybody else that might have questions for Jane. We would love to be able to answer anything that maybe we didn't clarify as well in season 1, or that they just have questions on. So we would love to be able to answer those. So please feel free to reach out to us on any of our social medias, our email, website, with any questions that you might have. And as you can tell from the first season, Jane is an open book. Amanda, you and I are too. So any questions you might have, we would love to answer them.
Yeah. And I just want to specifically make sure and call out to you. So our email is invisible.tears1966@gmail.com. Just to make sure it doesn't get lost in there, make sure you put Q&A in the subject line. And yeah, just as Drew just said, and just as Jane has always said, we're all open books. Send us any questions. We'd love to answer any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've been a very open book, very transparent.
So much
But
so.
I do that because I want to try to help others.
Right.
And, again, I'm so grateful for this platform to be able to share my story. It has helped me. This season has helped me a great deal with, moving forward with my healing. So yeah, next season, I really want to touch on a lot of the Coco cases too. I
Mhm.
mean, we have some in New Hampshire that are from the 60s and the 70s.
Mhm.
These are cases that are unsolved. No unsolved case should ever be forgotten.
Right.
I don't care how old it is. And I really, really want to touch on a lot of those next season. We may not have a lot of new information on them, but I believe with us getting their stories out there
Mhm.
and talking about the cold cases, um, it lets people know that they're not forgotten.
Yep.
And there's quite a few old ones. I mean, you go on the cold case website for New Hampshire. There's over 100.
Yeah. It's
Over 100. We may hear the stories of 5.
mhm.
So I really want to touch on a lot of those cases and talk about them and keep their stories out there
Mhm. Because that's
because
how
they're unsolved. They're
exactly.
unsolved.
And that's how you help the
And
case too. You help keep
y-
it current. You help keep it out there. You keep on talking about it. And the more it's out there, maybe it's going to jog something, you know,
exactly. Exactly.
and somebody will come forward with some sort of tip. And that actually reminds me, we're going to make sure and put a tip line specific to
Yes.
Jane's case and the Connecticut River Valley cases in the description of this episode too that Officer McLaughlin gave us.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, he's welcoming any new tips, any new information. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Um, yeah, if you know something, see something, say something.
Mm,
Um,
love that.
so and we're also like Drew said, we're definitely going to be touching on, you know, PTSD
Mhm.
and the mental health and the you know uh, symptoms of PTSD. I'm going to start talking a lot more about my symptoms of PTSD and get a lot more detailed um, on how they affected my life in the past, how they affect my life today, the tools I use
Wonderful.
uh, for you know how I deal with my PTSD on a daily basis. So, yeah, next season will be jam packed full of info,
Yep,
and I
it's gonna be
so
great hearing the symptoms too, because Jane, like you said, you didn't realize you were suffering from PTSD. So with you actually
no
going through the symptoms and how you were able to heal yourself step by step, it's going
Hmm.
to be great because there are going to be people out there that realize that they have the symptoms but did not realize that it was PTSD related. So I think that
exactly.
that would be a great thing to hear.
Hmm.
And as far as like the other, we are researching 2 cases right now, and we're not just looking at old 30, 40-year-old cases. The 2 that we're looking at right now, one's from 2001 and one's as recent as 2018. So we're definitely looking at new cases that we've been, hearing about and have been a part of. So yeah, a lot more to
Yeah.
come.
Yes, a lot more to come.
It's going to be fun, guys.
Yep. And Jessica's going to be on more with me.
Yes.
She's uh
Awesome.
she's going to start talking more
Good.
about her dealings with bullying.
Yep.
We just did a big episode on bullying. Um, so she's going to talk more about that. And
Mhm.
eh, I'm excited for season 2 to come up. And I just have to say I'm so thankful to you, Amanda, and you, Drew. Um, Amanda does all the editing, and she's the producer of Invisible Tears and my life coach and my co-host and uh, my ride or die. I can call her any time of day and night and talk to her about anything that I have on my mind. And Drew, he does most of the behind scenes, but he's also the producer and he comes up with wonderful content for us to
Mhm.
talk about. And I'm just so thankful for both of you. I could not have done this. and given, you know, I could not have done this without you two. You two have given me the platform to tell my story, and I'm very grateful.
And we're
Very
grateful that
grateful.
we could be part of this and that you trust us. And I mean, we've known each other forever, so that wasn't ever a question. But it's great to get that reaffirmation that you do have complete trust in us and that we are family. We love one another. And if we can help get you some answers, Jane, that would mean the world to me. I mean, knowing your story for my entire life and knowing that there was never been any resolution and the fact that we might actually be able to get it is, I'm happy to be a part of that and want resolution for you and for you to continue being the great person that you are and getting better day by day.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, Jane, we are so thankful. We're so thankful that we came together and we're on this journey with you and that you trust us in the capacity that you do. I've said it so many times before. We don't take that lightly. We know what you've been through. And I think the reason why this project works so well with all of us is because, I mean, first and foremost, yes, we're doing important work and we're getting truth and healing out there. But first and foremost, Jane, you are the most you you being okay is first and foremost what's most important to us. I mean, if you're not okay, we aren't. So I think that that bond and that trust and that authenticity with our team is what makes this work.
Yeah, exactly, Amanda. I mean, I, I'm not afraid to let you guys know that I'm not okay
Yeah.
some days.
Yeah.
And it helps to know that I have people that I can trust because in the past, people have stirred me in a very negative, bad way.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
part of the healing process too, is Jane, you have the comfort with us where you can tell us you're not having a good day.
Mm-hmm.
That was how many years did you go through your life where you couldn't tell anybody that? You couldn't even tell Dennis that.
Yep.
So just seeing that healing process to the point of you can get up and you can be like, you know what? I'm having a shitty day.
yeah.
Everybody now understands why and how to make it a better day for you.
Yeah. Oh, it helps. It helps me so much now when I have a bad day or something's bothering me or, you know, something bad had happened during the day. It helps me with being able to talk about it now. Um, I never did that before,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I'm so vocal about how I feel, and I don't care about people judging me anymore. That is huge, and you know that has helped me enormously. Um, I think I have grown from this season. I feel like I have done an enormous amount of healing, telling my story this season and talking about PTSD and trauma and all that. So yeah, I mean, this podcast has helped others, but it's also helped me too,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm grateful for that.
I honestly, I think it's helped each one of us too in our own ways.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and Jessica too.
Oh yeah.
Um, she's starting to open up a lot more than she had before. Um, I mean, I found out stuff about Jess this past season that I didn't know, and it kind of breaks my heart that I didn't see a lot of this stuff. But now we can move forward,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, she now has a platform to
Right.
speak on and to tell her story, and I think that's super important for her to do. Uh, you know, and
Absolutely.
we just you know almost every day we look at each other and we're like, I'm a survivor. Are you a survivor? And she'll be like, I'm a survivor. Are you a survivor? And, that was one of the things that I gained through my healing was going from the victim mode to the survivor mode. It gave me so much power, a power that I didn't know I had, as crazy as that sounds. But so, yeah, this season has been great. And uh, I hope people tune into season 2.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, we won't be long. We're only taking a couple of weeks off because we got a whole bunch of stuff we need to make sure and get out there, right? So, well, we're only going to take a couple of weeks off, but yeah, make sure that you subscribe and make sure that you're not just subscribing to us on any platform where you listen to your podcast, but also make sure you go and subscribe to us on YouTube now, since now you'll have some visual content and you can see us making our episodes and recording our episodes.
exactly. So that's it. Season 1 is over. And thank you very much for listening to Invisible Tears podcast.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast to hear all future episodes. Click into our link tree too in the episode description to find and follow us on all our social medias. And it also links to our website, invisible-tears.com, where you can keep current on any events that may be coming up, read more about Jane and the team, and read more about all the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases. As we stated in this episode, we want to hear your questions that you have for any of us so we can answer them in Q&A episodes going forward. So if you have any questions for us, send us an email to invisible.tears1966@gmail.com. Make sure you put Q&A in the subject line, and we'll do our best to answer all questions that come into us.
If you are looking for everyday items, clothes, collectibles, or a gift for that special someone, you can support us further by checking out our retail store, The Frugal Marketplace. We can be found at thefrugalmarketplace.com or search for us on eBay and Poshmark. We hold an online claim sale on Facebook Live every Monday night at 7 p.m. where you can find our latest items for sales or items at a deep discount. If you're local to the area, please stop in and say hi. You can find us at 919 West Swansea Road in Swansea, New Hampshire. The links for our products can be found in our show notes.
If you want to learn more about my wellness practice, Guided Path Wellness, head to guidedpathwellness.org. There you can read more about me and my certifications, more about the Reiki and coaching services I offer both in person and remote, and read all about my products for sale that I make through the practice. Feel free to utilize the Contact Us section on the website with any questions, or utilize that free 15-minute consultation booking button if you have any questions about what might work for you. Evil may exist in this world, but we will not let it win. See you next episode.